Hi, my name is Valerie Lane, and I am the author of a book about mental health and dealing with trauma. This book explores the intersection of trauma recovery, LGBTQ+ themes, and female friendships. I was inspired to write this book because I wanted to tell the story of overcoming trauma. In 2020, we all went through a sort of trauma with the onset of the pandemic. It being an election year, there being civil unrest, all sorts of really hard, stressful things. And if you're like me, then you were already dealing with trauma before we even got to 2020 or the pandemic. So I wanted to dive into what trauma looks like for a specific person through the protagonist of Harper. Trauma isn't like falling down and scraping your knee. You can't put a Band-Aid and some peroxide on it and have it heal in a week or so. There's so much work that we have to put into developing ourselves away from the weight of this trauma and the physical symptoms that the trauma can have on our bodies. And I wanted to demonstrate that in a character so hopefully readers could relate to it and maybe see it in themselves or a family member. Oftentimes we read books and we're able to connect with the protagonist, and in the pages of this book I've put in my own reflections into the character of Harper, our protagonist. I've done a ton of therapy over the last 3 or 4 years, and I've been able to become more self-reflective, able to learn so much about self-care, mental health, the human body, PTSD symptoms, how it all works together to have us show up in our everyday lives. So I think I bring a unique perspective because I've done so much work on myself over the last 3 or 4 years. In this book, you will meet the protagonist, Harper, and the villain, her PTSD diagnosis. The world is set in a pre-pandemic modern time. The coolest story that I share in the book is actually a character named Alex. Alex uses they, them, theirs pronouns and identifies as gender non-binary. They were such a fun character to develop because they serve as the role of a supportive friend for Harper, but a new friend that you meet along the way. So if you think back to a period of change in your life and you met somebody at the right time, or you met somebody and it started to unravel things for you in new and exciting ways, that's the role that Alex plays for Harper, all in stiletto heels. My hope is that you read this book and you see a friend or a family member in the pages, even if it's not the protagonist, Harper. I hope that you read this and have your perspective broadened a little bit. The stigmas around mental health and LGBTQ community members can be so destructive in our communities and even our households around our own dinner tables. And I hope that reading this, you're able to see things from a new perspective, have your compassion expanded a little bit, and maybe see things differently for a friend or family member. You will love this book if you love reading stories of resilience and overcoming mental health issues. You'll love this story if you yourself are having some mental health struggles. You'll love this story if you have friends or family members that are maybe overcoming trauma, and you'll love this book if you love reading about female friendships. My name is Valerie Lane, and my book is about healing from trauma.